Let's get straight to the next conversation here now. According to a report released by Agora Policy, an Abuja-based policy think tank, Nigeria needs to undertake swift and audacious reforms to stop the rapid decline of its economy and resultant negative impact on its citizens. Entitled Opinions for Revamping Nigeria's Economy, the report maintains that despite posting positive GDP growth in 6 consecutive quarters, having the biggest GDP in Africa, Nigeria's economy is not in sound health, citing worsening macroeconomic fundamentals and the level of inclusive development. The report, which analyzed Nigeria's economic data sets from 2011 to 2021, averred that the nation needs to undertake swift, bold, and far-reaching reforms, which must be undergirded by inclusion, transparency, and accountability. All right, let's talk to our guest now. Nelson Ekujumi is business and public affairs analyst. He joins us now via the Zoom platform. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Good day. Good day to our viewers as well.
All right. I need you to give me your a review, maybe your perception or impression about how the economy has fared so far in the last 3 quarters. Yes, of course, we expect the fourth quarter GDP report to be out any moment from now.
Yes, thank you very much. The economic indices, like we all have repeatedly acknowledged, is not looking, friendly at all. And looking at the Agora report, which we are going to discuss here, I think that report has captured succinctly and illustratively how we have fared in the last couple of years. Part of the report is the high level of unemployment, the increased poverty, the increased debt ratio, the dwindling value of the naira, vis-a-vis the dollar, and as well as the trade bottlenecks that continue to impede, in the area of diversifying our revenue base. So these are many more, and coupled with the fact that, we all admit that COVID-19 as well as the Russian-Ukraine war has had a debilitating effect on the global economy, of which we are also part and parcel. But looking at that report again, I think that report has done justice to our economic situation as we speak.
Now, what we try to understand, you have positive, economic growth, and of course the reports are positive, but how do we reconcile the fact that some of the issues raised in this report, now how do we bring it, if you put them side by side, it looks like all is not well with the well.
Well, if you look at the growth, yes, we can have the growth, in realistic terms, like we have seen in the last 6 quarters or so, where we have had a positive outlook with regards to the GDP. But the fact remains that when you calculate it vis-a-vis the standard of living or the ease of doing business within the country vis-a-vis the population we have, then you know that we are still very, very far behind. So despite the positive growth that we have seen, you and I agree, aptly, that this growth has had little or no effect on the ordinary man on the street. And, no matter the well-intentioned policies, the outputs that you have, the feedback mechanisms that, that should aptly capture the reality of the situation is the living standards of the people, or those who are doing business, that are they able to, conduct their legitimate activities, to better not only their lives, but, to better the economy. Because when the economy is good, the reverberating effect will touch on all and sundry. And if that be the case, it will even attract more investment locally and, externally. And, the people themselves will be the better for it. But, the reality on ground today, like I said earlier, I've gone through that report, and I think it's a report that the government needs to, study thoroughly. And we are going to dissect some of the indices there, and we need to also add our voice to ensure that as we go forward as a nation, that things get better for us all.
One of the key issues that have been raised in this report, of course, we all know that, which is the debt, the rising debt profile of Nigeria. I mean, as at August or June, Nigeria has recorded about 5.3 trillion naira deficit, and of course that is just a few numbers or digit below the 6 trillion naira revenue target for 2022. What's your position is days? I know the federal government has come out and said, look, at the presentation yesterday, the Minister of Finance and Budget and National Planning, Dr. Zainab Ahmed, defended that, of course, the borrowing is still within a healthy limit or threshold. How do you reconcile, or how do we reconcile these differences? The deficit is high, borrowing are still ongoing, and of course, revenue is declining gradually.
Well, we all know part of the drawbacks of our revenue, portfolio. And one major drawback of our revenue portfolio is the oil theft in the Niger Delta region, as well as the humongous amounts that we expend in subsidizing premium motor spirits, petrol. If we are able to plug those two major loopholes, you recollect.
Hello, Mr. Ekunjumi. Oh, well, I guess we're having a connection issues with Mr. Ekunjumi there, but I think he was trying to look at the fact that we have a lot of challenges and trying to highlight the implication. Okay, I'll land to your back. Please finish your thought.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, what I was saying is that the major area of deficit with regards to our, revenue portfolio, the major leakages that we have as we speak, is in the areas of oil theft, where about 1/3 of our oil production is stolen or lost, if I should put it that way. Then you also have the virus called oil subsidy. These two major, drawbacks in our revenue base has impacted negatively on, on our revenue drive. Also, you look at how are we doing with regards to the diversification of the economy. In the last budget, at the last presentation by the Minister for Finance, she made mention of the fact that in the last 8 months, the economy has been living on non-oil exports, which is to tell you that if we have been able to, eliminate these two viruses, that's the oil subsidy as well as the oil theft, then our economy would have been, very, very robust. In that way, the government at various levels would have had enough funds to invest into infrastructure and manpower. But as we speak today, even though we are still borrowing, and we know that one of the greatest, drawback of our economic situation today is that the tax base has not been effectively utilized. And when people complain about people not being in the tax net or that the tax should be increased, you want to ask, do you tax a man who is already down economically? Do you want to tax even his blood? The answer should be no. If we are going to tax, it should be for us, like the Agora reporter said, to look at new areas, to think out of the box, and ensure that we have our revenue base, complemented from new areas of, social engagement after blocking the oil subsidy virus, as well as the oil theft that, that is being, exposed now, and which we hope in the next couple of days or months going forward would have been completely eliminated.
I wanted to ask you, just let me jump in here a bit. Yes, I was going to ask you for some of the issues highlighted in this Agora report, which one works for you? Which one are you subscribing to? But I know you just talked about new areas, like we need to address the oil theft and ensure that we also, but again, let me ask you, this report is also recommending some things that the federal government should start looking at. For instance, the federal government should be able to remove subsidy. They should also be able to increase tax revenue, curbing and growing and suffocating appetite for debt as well. So let's look at this. How possible is it? Is this feasible? Talking about subsidy removal, and again, we'll talk about increase in tax revenue.
Well, as a social scientist, I've been drawn between the devil and the deep blue sea with regards to the removal of the fuel subsidy. And my position from day one still remains till date that, look, as long as we continue to import refined petroleum products, government should not make the attempt of removing fuel subsidy. It means the government is not alive to its responsibility. We have 4 refineries. Why are those refineries not functional? At every point in time in every society, government subsidizes one national asset for the good of the people. In other climes, we have seen, even in the United States of America, we have seen the humongous subsidy to the agricultural sector. When you go to other countries, we have the same as well. So why should we say because subsidy is draining our national revenue because we are importing, which ordinarily, because as we speak, we are the only oil producing country in the world that still imports refined petroleum products. It's a national embarrassment, if you ask me. So I don't think the people should suffer for the irresponsibility of those in government. I will only subscribe and be a strong advocate for removal of fuel subsidy if and only if we have local production of that product. Because when we have local production of petroleum products, there are so many byproducts from refining crude oil. And you can imagine the number of
quickly jump in. I mean, how possible is local production when some of the refineries are not working?
Well, if a car has broken down, to make that car work again, you need an engineer to come and fix it. And if your engine has knocked, like we do with our cars, let us even go to the layman's language and make them understand it. If whether you have a generator or a car, if your vehicle has broken down, maybe the body is, the body has deteriorated, you call the panel beater to fix the body. And if it is the engine, it is either you are buying a half engine, or you are buying a complete engine, or you are overhauling the engine that is bad. So there's no magic about these things.
Oh, okay.
That if the refineries are not working, something is not working there.
Yeah,
that needs to be replaced.
Mr. Akunjumi, I know. I mean,
yes.
we may not be able to exhaust this, conversation today. But let's also wind down because of our time now. Take home point for you from this report. A lot have been said, and a lot have also been recommended for the federal government. The issue of subsidy removal, which of course you're not in support, it's also there. So what is the take home point for you from some of these recommendations so far? We'll talk about diversification. You talked about diversification earlier. Again, the federal government will claim they've been diversified into agri. We've seen that in the last 7 years with the Anchor Borers program and all of that. And a lot of critics have said that is not working. So going forward, what do we need to begin to do? Because this government has less than 6 months in office.
What we need to begin to do is to look at the area of transparency and accountability with regards to public engagement. When we talk about diversifying the economy, the diversification still involves manual or man-to-man human, in engagements. We need to use technology. By that way, we'll reduce the bottlenecks, the corruption that is still ongoing at the ports. As I'm speaking to you, I've been an active stakeholder in port exercise for some time now, and I can tell you the human engagement is a major drawback to the ease of doing business. As an importer or say an exporter, I
Hello, Mr. Akojumi. Perhaps this is a good place to, drop the curtain at the moment on this particular segment. Thank you so much for your time. We may not have that time for you to wrap up your thought there, but thank you for coming on the program. We'll really have you back again. Nelson Ekunjumi is a business analyst and public affairs commentator as well. We'll take a moment, and when we return, of course, there are strong indications that the prices of food items may continue to rise due to the devastating floods that have ravaged most states and washed away farms and destroyed people's property. Well, that will be our focus of conversation when we return from this break. This is Business Breakfast. Please stay with us.